Oftentimes Aikido has a hard time because by many martial artists it's considered to be ineffective, and I can definitely see why there's that point, and Aikido is going through that phase of one set of people try to make it realistic, hardcore, kind of street Aikido, which sadly enough loses that essence, that spirit of Aikido which most people are drawn to, and why they choose this type of martial art, Aikido, rather than other martial arts. So it doesn't really serve it justice. On the other side, there's styles which neglect the self-defense side of Aikido by saying that it should be just a spiritual martial art, which again kind of loses something. It's not necessarily a whole picture. Now, when you do self-defensive Aikido, I'll show you a few examples quite soon of how I perceive self-defense Aikido that maintains the spirit of Aikido, but is also effective in a self-defense situation. Now notice it will change, there will be some differences, but as long as we maintain the perspective, the mentality of Aikido, it will definitely work and it will be integrated into the spirit of training and will stay effective at the same time. So now when we do Aikido techniques, too many times people consider Aikido techniques to be the end result. So meaning if my partner does a yokomenuchi, and I do a technique, I receive here, I strike, I lead the person out, bring him in, and do a shionage. So it's a big circular movement, but then a lot of questions come up to people. So meaning, for example, okay, so some people could say, okay, nobody's gonna attack you in this way, like, you know, with an arm, with the yokomenuchi. There's one good explanation for that. So one thing which helps is to realize that it can be, it's a line of attack. It's not about the specific attack itself. So for example, if he uses a knife, that same attack here now makes more sense. It's more common. It makes more sense. And here now, to do the same technique, it makes more sense. But even so, still, it's a wide opening shot. But first principle, you can understand that as we're learning techniques, you're not necessarily doing the end result, but rather learning a set of principles which you can later use. And quickly enough, I'll show you how to apply them in a more serious, in a more tense situation. But to begin with here, now when he's attacking here, it's a certain direction which if you learn to deal with, so if he has a stick, if he has a knife, if he's just lounging out with that fist or using a bottle, then I'm learning, okay, to go inside here. Now here I'm learning the principle of bringing him out of center, losing his balance. So there's many principles I'm developing, but personally when I look at techniques, I see them as a set of principles that I'm developing through this certain scenario, but I'm not expecting to get that specific technique on a street scenario. When I did Aikido in the past, when my first instructor was very strict about techniques and nothing else, that was troublesome because I thought I need to know all the possible attacks in order to defend myself. But then if you just take out the principles and stay with them, a lot of different things become possible. But still, nevertheless, here, for example, if we do it ski and I go out, so we're used to allow the arm to stay here. I bring the partner out, he waits for me to do the attack. There's a lot of comfortable things for me to work with these principles, but it's true that, quote unquote, on the street, nobody's gonna wait for you to grab the hand. Nobody's gonna wait for you to do all these big movements. So as we start to look at how a self-defensive Aikido would look, which maintains the Aikido spirit, it's gonna become much more tight. So meaning, if we're gonna look at the same yokomenuchi in a technique, when I'm training, I want to develop those principles. He wants to help me to develop those principles. So here we leave a lot of space, we use the center. There's a lot of principles here. But if it's a very serious situation, possibly even life-death situation, I'm not gonna play around. I'm not gonna try to do a nice technique that looks nice, and so my sensei could walk by and say, wow, great. But I'm really going to want to deal with this as quickly as possible. The more time I give, the more space I give for the attacker, the more chance he's going to do something unpredictable, take out that knife. His friends are going to come. I'm going to fail a technique. So I really want to be quick. I really want to solve this as quickly as possible without obviously hurting him too badly. So meaning if I'm more in a self-defensive position, I'm going to share straight away afterwards how to use these principles and what I applied, but I'm just going to show you an example. So meaning if I go in a self-defensive mode, so now when he attacks, I go straight for him, right? I don't wait, I don't give that space. And if there's a certain case scenario, so let's just imagine, let's say he punches and I wasn't ready, and now here there's a lot of space. Okay, I might use that space and do something, but meaning I don't want to give the luxury of space and time for him. I really want to go in as quickly as possible. So even if it's the same Yokomuchi, I'm going to be really going to an irimi, really going to an entering, and really going to try to end this quick. As I said, I don't want to give him the luxury and space to do counterattacks, extra attacks, feints, whatever. I really want to just finish it as quickly as I can with maintaining the Aikido principles, so without punching him back, without breaking him. So if we look in this at slow motion, so if he does a Yokomuchi, I really go inside as quickly as I can. I don't want to play, and I do whatever is necessary. So I'm really going inside to deal with this. Now the principles that I personally use, first of all, there's a principle which we call to be already there, meaning in Aikido, we oftentimes like to wait. So meaning if he attacks, I receive, I respond, but there's that space, there's that luxury of space and time. But if I'm already there, meaning I'm not waiting for him to attack, I'm already stuck to him so that whenever he attacks, I can already go in without waiting for anything. In Aikido, we are much better at close distance. We are much better here at doing something specific. We don't need that space of punching. That's our advantage. So we want to use that. We want to really go in. So meaning I'll ask my partner now to attack in any way whenever we're going to start the demo. But notice the principle I'm using now is first of all to be already there. So meaning if I'm ready and he wants to attack, I'm already there, right? I'm not waiting. Now here, again, I don't want to go from here into some kind of nice, flowing, long technique, but I don't want to hurt him either. So now what I'm going to need to do now, the principle I'm going to need to use is to connect. So in Aikido, we learn to connect. If it's in irimi nage, if it's koregeshi, we learn to connect and use those joints to bring him down, which is great. Those principles can be applied in a self-defensive situation as well. So in a slow motion, if he attacks and I'm already there, I enter, I don't need to go about punching, kicking, but I can actually use the advantage of Aikido and I can connect to him. But going down and finishing this as quickly as possible. So I'm not forcing him, I'm connecting using his joints. So notice I'm going to use that principle too. So now whenever we're going to start, he's going to attack in any way. I'm going to be already there. So he's doing any attack. I'm already there. So now here, I want to connect. I want to use my whole body. I want to stay with him, right? And now here, then you can use the principles of Aikido of immobilization per se. So from here, I can go into an immobilization, even if it's improvised. I'm using the same principles again. So here, then, if I would need to, I could talk to the partner, ask why did he attack, etc. The principles that we like to use. So if you notice, there's a lot more that we could work on here. There's a lot more that we can notice and I could point out. But the principle I want you to see and the difference in my perspective of self-defensive Aikido doesn't mean you go into punching mode, destroying the partner, breaking bones, but rather you're just becoming more tight, applying those principles more quickly, and you need to practice that. It's good to practice that, but still, I try to protect him as best as I can as I do that. So once more, I'm going to do a demo. He's going to attack in any way. I'm going to use those principles, but notice I'm not going to go into big, wide movements. I'm not going to play around either, but I'm not going to hurt him or try to damage him as well, unless that's necessary. And that's probably not going to be necessary today. So meaning, okay, if we do one more, so if he attacks, I go in, and I really want to go down. I really want to not give him any space to move at all. And from here, yes, I can continue in mobilization. So one more example. Right? So he goes in, I go in here. I don't waste time. And from here, even if he would go into attacking again, obviously he might not give in. So he wants to jump up, do something, grab me. Again, we start to continue in this fashion as well. So it's a very big and wide subject, and it's a whole world that opens up here. But we are going to stop here, not to take over too much time, but just notice the main facts that I wanted to point out. That Aikido can be very powerful as a self-defense martial art as well, but some principles need to be directed in a certain different direction. There needs to be a difference between techniques, self-defensive mode, but the spirit has to be maintained the same. So, if you are interested in this, let me know in the comments. We can make more videos about that. We can explore it more. But I hope this helped you answer some questions. Maybe that's going to help you in discussions with other people who are skeptical about what we do. But we're going to stop here eventually anyway. So as always, this is Rokas, and we'll see you on the virtual mat again soon.